Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Doing It Bubba Style, the #1 rated, internationally syndicated motorsports show. Brought to you by the award-winning father and son car building team and the hosts of the show, Bubba and Tom.
Good morning, or I was going to say good Monday morning, Bub. Wow, where's the week gone, Bub? Good Saturday morning. How we doing today, man?
Hey, man, doing pretty good so far. How about that intro from Justin Webbs, dude? Jay Webb's voice.
He did a really good job, man. Yeah, he did a super, super good job. Bub, we've got a super, super exciting show this week, and I have a very special guest that you don't know about that will be joining us next week, Bub.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you.
We'll see about this one.
It's going to be a good one, man. It's going to be somebody... no, I'm just not going to even say nothing, man. It's just going to be a great guest, man. You're going to really enjoy it, man.
As long as it's an actual conversation, not just a retard session, that would be great.
That would be great, man. So, Bub, you're out there working on the Bubba's Exotic Motorsports Rough Country Miss Outlaw Boutique SEMA Jeep today, man.
Yeah, man. Just fine-tuning a couple last pieces on it. Just once you build these things and you get into these designs, you just got to make sure that you put them over the top every time. Not that 90% mark. You got to go for 100, and that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm doing those last few pieces on it that I really want to just put right over the top, and really doing that final changing and modifications to it, and making sure she's 100%, not only from a look standpoint, but a fully functional standpoint as well.
And that Jeep actually unveiled in the VIP area of the Luke Bryan concert, along with the BEM Rough Country Miami Marlins Jeep, man.
Yeah, that's right.
Really good time, man.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Bubba's Exotic Motorsports. That's Bubba'sExoticMotorsports.com. Miss Outlaw Boutique for the finest in online boutique fashion, apparel, and accessories. The moose is loose on the internet, ladies and gentlemen. Miss Outlaw Boutique. Cars and Coffee of Palm Beach. I think they've got, I'm not sure when the next event's coming up, but I got to look into that. And Orange County Choppers, Bub. Orange County Choppers are...
Choppers done Bubba style.
Oh, Bub, you're doing some special stuff, and I'm not allowed to talk about it. Pretty hot stuff, actually.
Yeah,
really,
pretty good
Bub.
stuff.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that?
Hey, man, just doing my thing.
Can't say nothing, can I?
No. You probably will, though.
I got pictures, though, Bub.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
How about that, man?
Mm-hmm.
So, Bub, tell us a little bit, how's the work week been? We've got a lot of stuff going on today. We're going to share with everybody, give everybody kind of a recap of the week. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, around the world to the #1 rated, internationally syndicated motorsports podcast. Man, did you see the stats last night, Bub?
Yeah, man. If you guys did miss anything, if you haven't been up to date with everything we've got here going on at BEM, Bubba's Exotic Motorsports, go out to either our website at Bubba'sExoticMotorsports.com or go directly to things like our Instagram page, Instagram.com/Bubba's Exotic Motorsports. I am going to put up an Instagram page that's just /BEM, so it's also a lot shorter and quicker.
Say that again, Bub.
Same content, just makes it a lot easier instead of trying to type the whole thing out, right? Just BEM and done. So, I'm going to go ahead and get some of that stuff up, but if you guys did miss any of the action that was going on here at BEM, some insane stuff went out this week. Crazy rides, everything from quite a few lifted on-road, off-road vehicles to a couple of these pro touring rides we've been doing, and also some of these restorations we've been doing over the past few years. So we've gotten a lot of work done, a lot of crazy things done, and I'll tell you what, man, it is just more insane rides out there on the streets of South Florida.
And the other thing, Bub, too, is I look around, good morning to your brother, Nate, Bub. I look around out there in Virginia, as I look around the facility, we decided in 2018 we're going to phase out the classic car restoration side of things. Knock down the upholstery shop and the paint and body shop. We've got other plans that we haven't really announced yet with that area. But as I look around, man, it's really starting to thin out with the old stuff, man.
Yeah, unfortunately, the whole shop is just full of old cars right now.
Yeah, no, not necessarily.
No, I'm pretty sure it is, definitely. Have you walked through?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No, just over the paint and body side, man. Let's be positive, shall we?
Yeah.
So, we've got some really good things going on. Things are looking real positive out there, man. A lot of modern performance going on. In fact, I was talking to somebody late last night, and they had texted me saying that they had always thought that your niche was in the modern performance side of things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's good, man. That's really good because the technology you stay up on. You were working on one project yesterday we're not allowed to talk too much about yet, in fact, really at all. And you were literally making modifications to its original concept to make it work properly, man.
Yeah, it's sometimes you just got to go back to the drawing board a couple times and until you get the end result exactly what it needs to be. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's
No, there's not, man.
that's just perfection, and that's that's what we're doing. We're just finalizing a couple little things, and sometimes that's all you need to do.
Yeah, that really is, man. So you've been out there bumping and grinding, man. It's been a long week, bub. We have been here around the clock all week long, man.
Yeah, man, getting some crazy stuff done, and just knocking it out and doing this solid stuff, and a lot of fun things going on. Everything from the modern performance to the the on-road, off-road vehicles to man, we've even got a couple just straight motorsports style vehicles in here. So it's a lot of crazy things going on. A lot of different I guess styles of vehicles that are here right now, from the classics to the pro tourings to the modern to the lifted to the bikes to the trucks. I mean, all of it. It's all here right now. The lot's full, the facility's full, so just a lot of good things.
Yeah, and just catching up all these old projects, man. It's just you and I out there getting them done, man. It's been a lot of work. We got in real early the other morning, it's crazy, man. Just the hours pass by. Good morning to Mark Hoffman, the BEM dirt track driver. He's going to be calling us with his weekly race update. We get a 5-minute segment from him on every week. Good morning to Jeff Graham. I was talking to him earlier this morning as well, Bub. A lot of great stuff going on, man.
Yeah.
So, Bub, we're going to talk. We've had a couple questions that have come in. I need you to address, if you would, please. And if you would talk to us about, and in fact, you'll see kind of the precursor of this episode was live axles or straight axles. Now, Joe Kramer up in Fairfax, Virginia, wanted you to talk a little bit about live axles and straight axles. I know, Bub, you could go on for days about this subject, okay? Which is better? Why is which one better? Of course, there's rally sports, there is drag sports, there's one for this, one for that. Go into and then we have a question about fuels I need to tackle you with. So these are two pretty big subjects, but there's a lot of other things going on as well. So let's start. Live axles or straight axles, Bob?
Well, it's all that's going to come down to your end goal. What are you doing? What are you trying to build? What is it exactly you're trying to do with your ride? And there are guys that this could be personal opinions all the way across the board. If you ask any different builder out there or any guy in the automotive industry, every guy's going to give you a different answer on what they prefer. And there's nothing wrong with that. There are guys that want lifted trucks. They want super, super heavy duty, solid axles. Guys that go crazy. They dump stupid money into Dana style axles, into Curry axles, Motor
Dana's
axles.
A maker or manufacturer.
Yeah, all these are makers that I'm describing. So there's, all these different companies out there. There are a lot of guys that just strictly go to solid axles. Guys that do drag racing, they do solid axles. But if you want to, for example, look at like modern performance, you're going to be able to have independent style suspension systems on it where you are actually running a center differential assembly, but also independent axles and suspension coming off the left and right sides of that. So it does create not only a smoother ride, better traction, better handling, better planning power. But there are also your downsides to that. You can snap axles very quickly, but all things that are upgradable. You can call and you can get upgraded at, half shafts or drive shafts, whatever it is you need to upgrade to make an independent style suspension, which is the better of the two in terms of its comfort, in terms of the way it handles and tracks. Much better system for an all-around style vehicle than it would be for like a straight line drag car.
Now, I'm going to open the phone line today, Bob. I don't normally do that. 714-242-5166. 714-242-5166. If you want to get in and engage, Bub, on this conversation, please do. The BEM dirt track driver Mark Hoffman saying straight axles only works great for a vintage gasser and drag cars. But Bub, to your point, when you're doing rally cars, when you're doing cars that run in climate conditions like snow and stuff, you don't want those straight axles, do you?
No, you want that flex. So you want flex, but you also want rigidity and you want strength. So it's all out there. It's all possible. We talk about it all the time with today's cars. Today's Mustangs and Challengers and Camaros and Corvettes. You can very easily boost these things up over 1,200, 1,500, 2,000, 2,500 horsepower, which is a stupid number in terms of today's power. But you can do it, and you can still plant it running on independent rear suspensions, which is not only going to give you the comfort that you want, the flexibility that you want, but it allows you to have a all-around car with the upgraded stuff that you need. You can buy new center sections, you can buy upgraded center sections, upgraded axles for it, so you can have a full independent suspension that is fully adjustable on coilovers, whatever the case may be, where it will allow you to plant all of that horsepower you're throwing at it, but have an all-around system. You can have something that goes in a straight line. You can have something that goes on a road course. You can have something that goes through mountains and hills very well. You can have something that just drives on the street very well.
In terms of handling, Bob, as a designer and as a builder, one of the best in the world today, what do you like to use better? Or is it just basically application? Or would it be something, Bub, maybe even beyond that you'd prefer one over the other?
I guess it's all application. I mean, there are times where straight axles are great. They work great for some applications. Of course, you're doing trucks. Straight axles are much nicer. You're working with something that's heavy duty. So it's going to give you exactly what you want. But there are also times where a lot of that straight axle style has been gone away with for independent style suspensions, so that you do have that flexibility, but also that added comfort. So you take, for example, like today's pickup trucks, man. There was a time where, pickup trucks through the 50s, 60s, 70s, there were I-beam style front ends. There were, solid axle front ends, whether it was two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive. There were, torsion bar style front ends. And now all of that is very quickly going away because today's technology is allowing strength to come in such a compact design where you can run a very small front differential with independent style half shafts that come off the left and right sides of it to create that four-wheel drive design, but also on a full coil strut assembly. So you have a coil spring and a shock absorber all in one, operating off spindles and just your generic style front suspension that allows for full flexibility, but that added comfort, but still that strength that you need for that four-wheel drive application.
Now, Bub, share with everybody around the world, what do you find under most European cars?
99% of it's all going to be independent suspension.
Okay.
And even all the way into today's Challengers, they actually use Mercedes rear ends. So it shows you that strength goes across
Really?
the board. Yeah.
The Challengers use Mercedes rear ends?
Yeah, same design.
Well, we've got an S car. I mean, and they are bulletproof. I mean, they are, that you still have to do maintenance. And yes, you have things go wrong. I mean, you have airbags that go out and stuff like that. But those are just amazing vehicles, man.
Yeah.
They're certainly very tough, very, very rigid vehicles, man. The ride quality is second to none. And you get all the performance out of them you could possibly imagine, man. They're incredible cars. So I didn't know that those had benzo rear ends in them, man.
Yeah.
Wow, man. And so are parts available for those cars easily? I mean, it's not benzos aren't known for performance parts at ATEC Motorsports.
No, it's a totally different breed of cat. When you're dealing with the Europeans and stuff, you're dealing with a totally different animal in terms of what springs you're going to put on it. Most of the time, all of the components in the the European high-end exotic cars, they're all pretty much they're really where you want them right when you buy them. The control arms are all aluminum, they're fully adjustable. All the stuff that they provide is pretty much out of the gate ready to go, and that's why we talk about all the time. Some of these really high-end rides, you get into like the Audi R8s, you get into the Ferraris, the Modinas, you get into some of these Lamborghinis. You're working with cars that are already built, spec'd, and ready to go. So the only really things you need to do to them are like your basics, man. Your window tint, maybe adjust that stance down a little bit. Sometimes you can adjust stance on factory coilovers, and you can just literally spin them down to where you want it to sit. If not, you can buy a different set of springs, H&R, K&Ws, whatever you want to buy. Plenty of different options out there, but you don't need to go crazy where some of the older style vehicles, you look at like older Chevelles, 68 to 72, you've got upper and lower control arms in the rear, you've got springs in the rear, you've got, a solid sway bar in the rear. There are a lot of upgrades where you could just keep dumping money and money and money into these things in order to get just a piece of that comfort that you would have on something of today's technology.
But why do you think the Europeans, and especially the supercharged models, okay? For example, like on the Mercedes, their supercharged models are called what? What's their name for them?
Compressors.
The compressors, that's correct. So why do you think they opted to go with the independent, you call it all-wheel drive type setup, correct? What is all-wheel drive, and what's the advantage of all-wheel drive?
Well, there's a lot of cars actually out today that are running like the Quattro design, the Audis, the all-wheel drive designs. The BMWs consider it their X series. That's their all-wheel drive.
Is that what the X stands for?
Yeah,
X-Drive?
So it's, there's a lot of different companies out there producing that all-wheel drive where. Me personally, I feel there's pros and cons to it, and I feel like that could be a conversation that goes back and forth all day long, depending on the person you're talking to.
Yep.
Naturally, I just prefer a traditional rear-wheel drive setup. That's me personally.
Why?
It's easy. You're planting that power. You have less wear and tear on certain things. But again, that could be something that could be argued all day long because, again, today's technology is bringing us that much further where that wear and tear factor is almost irrelevant anymore. And it's non-existent, because you can get 100,000 miles out of a set of bearings on, where you had problems before back in the mid 2000s, mid 90s, when these all-wheel drive applications were coming out. Front differentials couldn't handle it for some reason. There were front hubs that couldn't handle it for some reason. Always things that were failing all the time when it was these all-time all-wheel drive systems. Think, for example, like the mid 2000s Escalade Denali's.
Yep.
Huge problems with those things, man. They couldn't make it 100,000 miles on the front differential. They just wouldn't do it.
So, Bob, here's the question for you then. Is it better for people to look, because to your point, technology is moving extremely fast. It's bringing us forward fast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you're always on that cutting edge. You've got a project in here right now. Again, we're not allowed to talk about it. We're under non-disclosure with it. But the first thing you did when this came in is you had to start making minor modifications, tweaks, and adjustments to this particular piece that has already been seen around the world.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always that modification. There's always that cutting edge, and you've got to know exactly what to go to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of all-wheel drive, is it going to be a better delivery package for performance? Is it a more expensive delivery package for performance? Is it a good daily setup? What are your thoughts on that technology, that evolution?
That's a hard one to say because, again, personally, I prefer just a rear-wheel drive application. Now, when you start talking about today's cars and planting power, the all-wheel drive is the way to go because you are starting to produce so much power out of the gate. There are some cars coming out with minimum 650 horse to the tires, and you start dealing with numbers like that. It's hard to plant that kind of power in a rear-wheel drive application, especially on like a mass production, basic street tires, basic suspension. They can harness the power, but to go out and really have fun with it and push it to its limits is very hard to do sometimes, especially on, you're driving in weather conditions. So, the all-wheel drive is, of course, it's if you want to plant 650, 700, 800 horsepower, you can plant it right away, and you can literally stick your foot through the floorboard, and it will put every tire to the ground, and you will go. You try to do that in a Corvette, it's not going to happen. You're going to spend the first 3 years trying to control the car in a straight line.
So, Bob, Joe wants to know, would you consider it fair to say solid axles perform better? This is a good question. You're going to like this. And Joe's always engaging cerebrally with us, and I appreciate that. Joe says, would you consider it fair to say solid axles perform better for body-on-frame versus unibody? So, first of all, Bob, what is body-on-frame versus unibody for everybody?
So, the two differences between them is, a unibody setup is just that. It's literally a structurally designed body of a car where there is no full chassis front to rear. So no steel tubing, no, box tubing or full round tubing from the very front of the car all the way to the very rear end of the car. It's nothing more than the body of the car itself, whether it's made of steel, whether it's made of aluminum composites. Structurally it's designed so that your suspension and everything bolts into the body of the vehicle, right? Where a frame style vehicle would be a full rolling chassis and frame that the looks of the car essentially just drops down on top of.
So what is the structural advantage of each one of those?
That could go, again, that's a conversation that could go on for days. So unibody systems a lot of today's vehicles are unibodies unless you're referring to pickup trucks. So most cars have gone to that design where, there's really not much for full chassis anymore. Essentially, number one being weight.
Trucks,
there's full chassis on, but even then, now Ford's own that market with turning that into a full aluminum chassis. So again, that weight savings right there, of course, less weight, the less fuel it's going to take to power that thing and push it around. So, of course, economy comes into mind. So it all plays there. But when you start considering things like, what suspension styles are better on what, that's a tough one, So let's say, for example, like just a go-to, right? So let's say like mid 60s, 70s GMs, full frame cars. A lot of them were a 4-link style upper lower control arm rear suspension with coil springs on the front and coil springs on the rear. So they had a pretty good setup on them, but they were linked up to a solid axle. So while you could still enjoy those cars, you could set the stance on them, you could set all of your suspension geometry where you wanted to, riding on a solid axle on those things, you still knew that you were on a solid axle. So it was a little firmer, a little more stiff. Your flex wasn't the greatest, although it could do what you wanted it to. But with today's technologies and components, you can buy these aftermarket kits from companies like Detroit Speed, where you can buy these independent bolt-in rear suspensions, change your axle style, and you can literally bolt in something modern that makes that car just like you're getting into a brand new Corvette, for example.
So, Bub, is it your opinion then that in concluding this segment, because we're going to jump into our quick race report here, then we're going to move into the second piece of the show. You have been asked about fuels and performance. So we need to talk about that as well. Is it then your considered opinion professionally that each application has its own specific job to complete?
Yeah, it's there are pros and cons, I think, to every one of them. I think that's key. It's just knowing what you're building and what you're trying to do. Solid axles, there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. You can build high horsepower into them. You can upgrade them. Today's components are out there to where you can take stuff from the 40s, 50s, 60s, and you can literally upgrade all internals of it so that it's literally today's brand new spec. So you get that quality and reliability out of it. You can do, resto mods and pro tourings. Those are the things that allow us to do it. Because you can literally put all modern components inside of an original style housing and have the strength, have the quality. You can have that power. You can put it down to the ground. You can have the traction. You can have the handling. You can have, the suspension and the flex that you want out of it. So it's really just, knowing what your end goal is, what project you're building, what you're trying to do, and making sure you build it to that exact spec.
Okay. So, Bub, there it is for everybody. I appreciate it. We may have some questions to come back to that. Good morning. Mark, are you with us here live on the #1 rated, internationally syndicated Motorsports
Morning
show?
there, guys. How you doing?
Good, man.
Doing good.
How we doing today, man?
Well, the sun's out, so you know what that means.
That means...
We're going to try to have some fun at Hagerstown tonight.
So tell us a little bit about how everything's going with the dirt track team and how things are making out for you.
Well, a week ago when I called in, and we obviously said that a week ago, yesterday it rained out. Well, it happened again at Hagerstown, which I mentioned towards the end of the show. So it was kind of a washed out weekend. The only thing that went on was NASCAR at Sonoma for the first of two road course events of the year, which was won by Martin Truex Jr.
Oh, right on, man. Weren't you saying though that was where your guess was? You were thinking, Mark, that's where it would be Martin Truex?
Yeah, because there's about 4 or 5 drivers that are current that completely adore the road course events. And he is one of them, and so is AJ Allmendinger is another ace at the road courses. So the next road course would be August the 5th at Watkins Glen, New York, and that would be on NBC. I think it's NBC Sports Network.
Oh, right on.
Because Fox is now done for the year, and now it's NBC's turn to finish off the year. So tomorrow's race and the following, which would be the halfway point of the year, they're back at Daytona for the Coke 0400. That would be on regular NBC.
Wow, Bub, that's a lot of interesting information. Would you have known what channels and what media outlets were doing what at what point in the season?
No idea.
Yeah, because I get asked a lot of questions, so I got to know all this high-tech odds and ends.
Yeah. No, I get that, and that's part of the race segment that you bring forth, Mark, as not only a driver but as a fan, and it's interesting to hear both points. Now, is the BEM dirt track team going to be out on the track this evening?
Well, 2 cars will be out on track tonight at Hagerstown. The number 6 street stock driven by Joe Rogers. And we are going to debut our new crate rate model with a 16-year-old driver behind the wheel for his first start at Hagerstown. So I'm actually going up to help them 2 out. My next event will be Tuesday, July 3rd at Potomac. We're going to break out Old Reliable, the number 12 hobby stock.
The number 12 car.
And because I actually ordered brand new tires, so that will help tremendously.
What tires are being run on that car right now? Bub, do you know?
Unfortunately, we have a spec Hoosier tire rule, which I cannot stand because they're just crap tires, but they have to be sold. You can only run the tires that they sell at the track, and 90% of our wins came from the street tire tire rule. But I mean, we still get some wins, but it's like it's real hard.
But when it comes to
too hard of a tire,
Bub, that's a whole science in itself. Let's talk about that for a second, Bub. When it comes to tire compounds and what you use, it's a totally different animal, man. Mm-hmm. And just as you were talking to us and teaching us a little bit about suspensions and the dynamics and how each one has its specific role and purpose, same can be held true for tires. Mm-hmm. Talk to us a little bit about that, man.
Well, it's what I always start with on any topic of discussion with rides, man. It's all about what
where
your
you're
goal
going.
is. Like, what the heck are you doing with your car? Are you trying to circle track it? Are you trying to straight line it? Are you trying to road course it? And all of those things are going to change every last variable, all the way down to the dumbest of dumb, entry level, basic automotive 101 tire pressure. So every one of those things is going to change what that car does in terms of how it handles, how it puts traction to the ground, how you get your steering response. Every one of those pieces and key factors is going to change it. And to Mark's point, it's one of those things where it's a hard boat to be in because, as he's saying, you have to run a specific tire for what the track sells.
So then, Bub, for example, are the tires at the BEM dirt car, is it a smooth track? Why don't you and Mark talk about that kind of tire compound? You run a G2 compound or it's not a G2 compound. What do you run on the street, Bub?
That'd be R2 compounds.
The R2 compounds. Yeah. You run R2 compounds to have some stick to it. Mm-hmm. So what do you guys run on the dirt track? Mark, you and Bub talk about that a little bit.
All right. What we run is a spec tire, which is a R22 spec Hoosier tire, which is what you would normally see on your IMCA dirt modifieds from the Midwest. It's an 8-inch rim, so it actually resembles a normal width and height of a street tire. The only difference that really throws it into a mind-boggling monkey wrench is when, like, for me, I favor a heavy, tacky track. I want to be able to scrape mud off the car, not run on a hard, slick, black track, because all you're doing is spinning the tires and burning up the tires. Mm-hmm. So for the hard, slick tracks, we can run and finish. We're just not going to be dominant because we don't want to burn up the tires.
So, Bub, what do you think about that? That goes to like what you do as well. If you're building an on-road, off-road application, you're looking at one brand of tire. No, well, you're going to run Nittos on everything, but you're looking at one type of tire, right? Mm-hmm. So, what goes into your mind for these things?
Well, it's just making sure that you've got the right tread compound for what it is you're doing, and that's key, man. Is figuring out, making sure you've got the exact tire you want for what it is you're doing, and then from there you get out and you test it. You can typically play with your tire pressures and see what kind of gains and differences you're going to get. Of course, tires are going to expand. Yep. Air pressure expands as the tire heats up. So if you start at 10 pounds, you might end up at 15. You might end up at 18. So all of those things are going to be key factors, and that's where there are warm-up laps. You're heating up your tires. All of that stuff changes, and there's a lot of douchebags on the street that ride around their bikes, swerving back and forth, trying to heat up their tires.
Another perfect example is more so for like Watkins Glen or Road Atlanta or Elkhart Lake. When you're on the road course and it starts to rain, the slicks are not going to do anything except make you spin out. So they come into the pit and put their rain tires on for that, and most of the time it sticks. So slicks are only good for one thing, and that's dry, hot tracks.
There we go,
That's
bub. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen, the BEM dirt track driver, Mr. Mark Hoffman, bringing you the latest in racing. Mark, thank you so much, man, for joining us today and engaging us in
No problem.
a topic.
And while I have a chance, I want to say happy 4th of July to all listeners.
Oh, right on.
And
Right on. Thank you, man.
I will be calling in next week.
Next week,
for
that's
the,
correct.
Next report.
That's exactly right, man. And we talk, we talk throughout the week, bub. Mark and I talked yesterday. We get an idea of where we're going and everything. We wish him the best. Is the team going to be out on the track tonight, Mark? Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Two cars tonight and probably 4 cars on the Tuesday night.
And how can people watch? Mark, have you started putting everything up on Facebook yet so people can watch it live as the...
Yes.
Okay.
Well, yeah. People can follow me at Mark Hoffman on Facebook from College Park, Maryland, and you can also go onto my business page too, which is obviously the auction house.
Yep.
But always stuff going on here, just like it's stuff that happens down on your end.
Oh,
so,
never ends, does it, my friend?
Busy.
Yep. Mark, thank you so very much. Have a wonderful 4th of July. We thank you, ladies and gentlemen, the BEM dirt track driver, Mr. Mark Hoffman, with this week's race report. There we go, Bob. Right on time, huh, Bob?
Yeah.
So I love when Mark comes in and gives us that kind of information, kind of helps us out with that stuff, man. It's fun stuff. And it's neat to hear you two engage as well, because as a street builder and a beach builder, and a mud builder, it's very different than having the BEM track car out there on the street, on the track like that, man.
Well, yeah, man, every one of them makes a difference. And, that's the hardest part, is trying to figure out, quality in every one of those arenas. And
right on, man. Well said, Bob.
I mean, really it is. It's, every
well
one of those things operates at different conditions, and that's really hard to master. It's having a lot of information to go off of, knowing what those key factors are, and knowing how to set it. For example, we've got our drag truck here. We keep set cold tire pressure on that truck is always sitting at 10 pounds. And that thing heats up to about the 15 to 17 range. So you've got to set it at 10. Most people think the tires look flat, but that's dead on where it needs to be.
It does look flat. It almost looks like it's wrinkled on the bottom.
Yeah, and that's what you want. Once you heat that tire up, that thing's going to expand. It's going to fill up a little bit, and that's going to plant that power super, super strong. And you've got that one, for example, that you start at 10 pounds at cold, and you've got some of the on-road, off-road trucks that start your pressures at 65 pounds. You've got some that you start on your street rides that just sit right in that 29, 30, 32 range. And tire pressures are key, man. Everything from ride quality to handling characteristics to traction to road noise. Road noise is key.
Yeah, you're big on not having road noise, man.
It's all those things. All those things literally take some sort of factor in there.
So, Bub, this episode is brought to you by Bubba's Exotic Motorsports. That's Bubba'sExoticMotorsports.com. Miss Outlaw Boutique, ladies and gentlemen. The moose is loose full-time on the web. MissOutlawBoutique.com for the latest in boutique fashion and apparels. Man, she's doing some really hot stuff, man. Have you seen some of the country stuff she's doing, Bob?
Yeah, man, it's pretty crazy right now. I mean, it's
her and the Outlaw Girls.
Yeah, pretty solid stuff, dude. They've been doing some crazy photo shoots, a lot of things going on, a lot of different styles and collections out there, man, that she's done. MissOutlawBoutique.com. It's not just your basic, go and grab a shirt and run.
No, it's not.
It's all about get that inspiration and put together an entire outfit, literally ready for whatever it is you're doing, whether it's a date night, whether it's a country concert, whether it is country line dancing for the night with the girls, whether it is ladies' night and you just want to put on a nice dress. All that stuff is out there, man. There's literally full collections that have every one of those types of nights covered.
And Bob, I want to tell you,
or even just down to straight up beach fun.
Just beach fun, isn't it, Bob?
Yeah.
Mark Hoffman, make sure you guys join him. See the BEM Dirt Track team live. Follow him on Facebook, Mark Hoffman. Hey, Bob, Orange County Choppers are?
See, and that's actually really good right there. So let me see. Orange County Choppers are choppers done Bubba style. So what Mark Hoffman just made a point of. So now take, for example, I can't see it, but I'm going to try to go off my memory here what I just read. So take, for example, what Mark Hoffman does in the BEM Dirt Track team is he runs a circle track, right? So you're typically running forward progression, left turns all the time. So I'm just going off memory, I think.
Okay. Let me read it out so people hear it.
What you do is key factors in that. For example, a lot of people don't understand the way that car is going to be leaning the whole time is going into those left-hand corners. All of that pressure is going to be down on that right side of the car, more importantly, the right rear. So you always have different factors, everything from your coil spring rates, your leaf spring style setup, if you're running those, how the car is sitting at its stance. It's not going to be tucked all the way down to the ground like you would build something for the street, right? It's going to be sitting at a different angle. Camber's going to be different. Tire pressures, for example, I think he was saying he runs, 21 in the front left?
Yes.
18 in the front right?
Very good. Okay, so what Bub's referring to, good morning to Dr. Wade Van Sice, my very good friend. The doc is that's a crazy man to run with, Bub. I'm going to tell you right now. He's more trouble than I am. I want you to know, everybody. Look up Wade Van Sice on Facebook. Let's see. Mark Hoffman, the BEM dirt track driver, on the number 12 car. This is what Bub's referring to. On the number 12 dirt track car, we run 21 pounds on the RF, which means what, Bub?
Right front.
And 18 on the RR, meaning?
Right rear.
And 14 on the left front, rear, and 12 on the left front. Tire pressure for wet, tacky track.
Yep.
So now take it from there and explain it a little bit more.
Well, and that's kind of where, as a driver, you have to feel that connection with the vehicle. So when you're into racing environments, just a couple pounds, those are all within like 5-6 pounds of each other, but just a couple pounds of air pressure is going to change the way that car feels, not only in the butt of your seat, but in the hands on your wheel. I mean, it's going to change every last piece of it. And if you are a true racer, you can actually have that connection, and you can literally be running your car. You can be pushing it to its max, to its limits, through corners, and you can pull up to your pit crew and be like, listen, I feel like something's still not right in the right rear. Drop me down a little bit in tire pressure, drop me 3 pounds, or bump me up 8 pounds, and every one of those things is going to make a difference. And so you have to run a couple laps before you can get that difference. You want to make sure you do it cold, do it hot, do it with different pressures, and you essentially build a baseline to where you understand, with that tire, with that weather condition, this is the setup that I want to run, and set it to that as a go-to every time, much like we do with our drag truck. We know that thing best range is 10 to 12 pounds cold, and it bumps up naturally to 15, 18, and we just maintain those numbers. If you maintain those numbers, you've got a winning, proven piece.
Okay, so let's follow up with that. Mark says, with hard, dry, slick track, 19 in the right front, 17 in the right rear, 14 left rear, and 10 in the left front. Bub, to your point, that's only a couple pounds, but do you, as a designer and builder, you're ranked among the top 3 today. Do you really feel that when you're driving the vehicle?
Yeah, big time, man. It's I actually drove the MOB SEMA Jeep this morning, and I set those tire pressures to right at 40 cold, and I'm sorry, I set those to 40 hot, and naturally let them fall back down to where they do. 40 hot's a super, super comfortable number on them, but when they drop down and they're cold, that 36 range, 37 range, again, 3 to 5 pounds. Sometimes tires will change depending on the weather. That difference alone, you can literally feel that difference in the ride quality and the handling, and even the hum that gets generated from the tire.
Yes. And Bub, the thing, speaking of hum, you don't like a lot of hum coming from your tires. No. And you like to find the perfect balance. In fact, you stray away from certain manufacturers, and that's why you're signed exclusively with Nitto, because that technology is there. One of your clients went with a different manufacturer. You tried to advise him otherwise, and he's not pleased with the ride quality of that Toyota Tacoma.
Yeah, it's you just gotta find that happy medium. Everything comes into play, man. And this is, again, we're just talking basics here. We are talking tire pressures, and this is how deep you can go onto basic tire pressures. Everything from your handling to the firmness of that ride, to how firm and hard it is and harsh it is when it hits a bump.
Yep.
Depending on the size of your tire, 40 pounds to 50 pounds can make a huge difference in the way it rides. It can feel like you either have a set of really smooth shock absorbers, or it could feel like you've got a extremely heavy duty off-road rated set of coilovers on the thing. So that's what the difference of 10 pounds could be in terms of comfort versus super, super heavy.
Now, Bub, hear from Joe. Again, Joe's engaging, and we love this. Joe wants to know, along with tire pressure, well-stated grammar, along with tire pressure, how do spring rates affect power to the ground?
Yeah, man, that's a super, super good question, and one that, again, could go on for a little bit, but it's in terms of today's springs, right? So you buy a car that's maybe mass production, you're going to get something that's it's done. Its R&D is done. It's been tested at every possible level in terms of its flex, its handling, how it plants power, the traction, blah, blah, blah. Everything's been tested and proven. Now, you want to go into maybe lifting or lowering that ride height. Maybe you want to do it just for 3/4 of an inch. We talk about it all the time. Today's modern rides, you typically don't need to drop too much because they do sit pretty tight. But if you want to fill that gap up a little bit, you drop them in the 3/4, 1 1/4 inch range, not too much. But all of that is going to change a little bit in order to get that spring down or get that ride height down, that spring is going to change both in its height, overall height, to bring that stance down, but also you want to, in some cases, you're bringing that body closer, so you need to make it a little bit tighter so that it doesn't have that same amount of flex. So you are going to get a little bit more of a firm ride anytime you do any sort of lowering, but it is because you kind of give and take a little bit. You need to drop that spring overall height, but you also need to increase that spring rate a little bit, which is going to make it handle tighter. It's going to, where in some cases that may be what you want. There are some cars out there that you buy that you can literally drive them and be like, you know what, I do want to lower this car, but I do think it can afford to actually tighten itself up. And trust me, we've done cars like that. But when you deal with spring rates, again, all of these things aftermarket in today's world, all of them are great companies out there, man. Everything from, you know, like I mentioned earlier, there is IBOC, there is BMR, there is UPR, there is, man, H&W, there is, H&R, there is KW, there are plenty of different companies out there. Votland.
And you've built with them all. You stay a lot with H&R.
Yeah, H&R for the most part with my Euros. It's you know, to me that they set the ride height tight. They set it very, very tight to what it would look like if you bought the car lowered from the manufacturer. So I love the tightness of it. I love the clearance of it. It's perfect gaps. It's not tucking tire at all, but it's right there at the tire. It leaves you full functional if you want to throw 5 people in a car. If you do have like a Mercedes or something like that. You can do it with no scrubbing and no worries. The spring rates are very, very close to factory. They do get a little firmer, but again, those are the kinds of cars like Mercedes, for example. I feel like when you do those H&R drops, I think Mercedes perform better than what they do on stock springs. I think that it's just that tightness that they need.
100% agree. You've got our Benzo
to bump
drop
it
down
from luxury comfort to luxury sport. And to me, I prefer the luxury sport, not so much the luxury comfort. I feel like the car's already got that comfort there in terms of the upholstery, the weight of the vehicle, the way it handles. It's not too tight. But I feel like you bump it into that, you know, from luxury comfort to luxury sport class, and that's a super comfortable setup for me.
So, but here's another total different topic. Along with tire pressure, again, this is our driver, the BEM driver, Mark Hoffman. Carb settings to current weather conditions due to humidity, pressure, and outdoor temps, and carb jets. Now, Bub, that could go right into the second question that we had. We had somebody write in this week who asked, Jack, he asked, what about performance cars and today's gases? Talk a little bit about that. Then let's move into what Mark's bringing up. You're a master at EFI setups. You're a master at carburetor setups. I mean, you've got that car, everything's so dialed in with a carburetor before you even put it on, and the timing set dead on. So when you turn that key, it doesn't matter how big that cam is or how lopey it is, that motor runs like a Cadillac, man.
Yeah, you know, it's again, that's fuel, same thing, all about your goal. You know, what are you doing? Today's cars, they're going to be mass production. They've got to be efficient all the way across the board. Some cars require E85 now, which burns much, much, much cooler, still very efficient. There's still cars that are running just basic generic gas, 87 octane. You know, some states don't even have that. Some states are just 85. You know, there's 89, there is 91, there is 93, there is 97, there is 100 octane. There is 104, 106, 110, 112. Okay, so fuel goes on and on for days, right?
Bub, not to cut you off, I want to grab something here real quick because a lot of people don't understand this. The higher octane fuels burn faster or slower?
Faster.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hit on.
If I get one more Amber Alert from Sprint, I swear to God, I'm going to disable my Sprint service.
Wait, is Amber missing?
No, man, it's some freaking Amber Alert from some...
I'm trying to monitor it all right here for you.
Listen, dude,
so keep going.
I'm not even going to tell you what's going on with Amber Alert right now.
What's happening?
I don't know. There's some guy that stole a candy bar from a 7-Eleven down in Lake Worth, and they're driving around in a silver Suzuki, and they're freaking blowing up my phone about it, looking for plate number YKU or something. Like, I don't even care. God, the guy's stolen almonds. Let him have it.
Give it to him.
Jesus.
So, Bub, let's go on. So there is a difference in the temperatures at which fuels burn, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's move on to what we were saying about today's fuels. Why the 93? Why the 112? Why the 110? Why the 87? What is it?
You know, it's all going to be application and tune. It's you know, what are you building? What are you doing? You know, today's high performance rides, 99% of them are pretty much running the highest octane you can buy right off a pump. You know, most companies and most fuel stations all across the U.S. are in that 93, sometimes if you are lucky, 100 octane race fuel. Those are out there. There are still limited stations out there that are selling 100. There are a lot of cars in today's world that you can run 100 in them with no problem at all. 93 is about the strongest you're going to get out of pumps anymore.
Yes.
But there are companies out there, for example, these high-end rides. You can throw a tune on these cars just by doing basic bolt-ons. You can literally do, stage 1, stage 2 upgrades. Let's just talk basics here. Maybe a cold air intake, a full exhaust, and a tune, just a handheld tuner, nothing crazy on a dyno, just a straight up handheld that just advances your fuel ignition a little bit. Your basic tunes, you gain a nice 50 to 60 horsepower on the full package. You can throw some 100 octane in there and let it rip all day long, and it will love that setup.
So, Bub, let me ask you a question. Why do some cars need to run 87 and some cars need to run 93?
So it's just going to be all on your application. What that ride's meant to do, what its design is, what its tune is set up, what its power is. All of those things are going to be key. There are certain fuels that, if you have too weak of a fuel in the application you're running, the higher octane fuels, they prevent things like engine knock or detonation or pinging, where some of that stuff, and that's just based on your tune that's in there. And also versus compression ratios. So all of that stuff comes into play when you start talking about fuels. It's all about that application. Again, that end goal. What are you doing with it? What's the purpose of the ride?
So, Bub, does 5 octane points really make a difference?
Huge, yeah.
So just like 2 pounds of tire pressure.
87 to 93 could be the difference of wide open throttle pinging and not. And that could be detrimental on a supercharged LSA that's running 700 horse. If you are meant to run 93 in it, you're meant to run 97, maybe even 100, and you drop it down to an 87 octane and you go full throttle pull on it, that could be enough to damage something inside the motor.
When you talk about pinging, what is pinging and what does it do?
So it's detonation in the motor. It's it's typically from not enough fuel or not enough high octane in the fuel, or not enough octane in the fuel to create that proper air fuel ratio and burn.
And it's literally the cylinder or the piston is slapping inside of the very tight space of the cylinder wall.
Yeah.
And when that happens, it's not good. It's typically happening as it comes up on the top of the compression stroke, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not what you want, man. And a lot of people think that you can just take and back timing out of it, and that's not your key. Your key is to put the right fuel in it.
Wow,
and
I remember that.
It's motors are meant to run at a certain time, and that is that's the number one thing about an engine is timing. So once you set your timing, then you build everything else around it. Your air fuel delivery has to be built around it, and that's what makes that motor perform. And the better that system is matched, the stronger your power and efficiency is going to be. I mean, literally, fuel ratios can change from, say you have a car that produces 700 rear wheel horsepower on 93 octane. If that's a boosted motor, you could put in like a C16 or 120 race fuel, a turbo fuel. That could be the difference of, without changing the tune, you could go from that 700 rear wheel horsepower just by changing fuel to probably close to 850. So literally 100 plus horsepower just on your fuels.
So horsepower gains are not hard to get, are they? By doing some things like that.
No, man, and that's the difference. That's what people don't see. And there's so many people out there that'll they create drama and gossip in the industry anymore, and they roll their eyes with the nonsense on when people talk high horsepower numbers, and that is, it just makes you look that much more stupid, because it is proven. Today's fuels and today's products and technology literally allow you to do insane horsepower numbers with basic bolt-ons in today's vehicles. You take today's Corvettes, they're right out of the gate 650 horse, and those are detuned and they are stock mass production. You put a cold air intake on them, you change your pulley size, you change your balancer size pulley, you change to a long tube header system and full exhaust, and you put like a water meth kit on that car. It's going to be in the 850 horsepower mark very quickly.
So, Bob, good morning to Kenny Ledsum. Tell everybody who Kenny is. He's normally in Florida. He's now where, Bob?
Is he in Orlando, dude?
No. Kenny's not in Orlando.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Kenny, our Kenny.
No. Ledsum. Our other Kenny.
Kenny Ledsum's in Ohio right now.
Kenny has been for years. Who, Bob?
Our wheel and tire provider. That's right.
He really has, man. He moved to Ohio. I still can't get my hands around why he did that.
That's family. That's his number one thing. That's all.
Who cares about family?
Well, yeah. Clearly with you.
Just kidding, Kenny. I think that's a very noble thing you did. Kenny Ledsum for years and years has been our wheel and tire representative, Bob. Mm-hmm. And Kenny moved to Ohio to be with his family so that his young child can grow up amongst his grandparents. And I think that is a very, very, it's hard to leave this area. It's such a beautiful, beautiful area. I can't even begin to imagine in my mind what it would be like to have to live in the cold again. I just couldn't, man.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to do that. Kenny's laughing over there, Bob. Mark Hartman says, Bub Lloyd, I hope you're ready for the winter off season. Throwback dirt cars for 2019 to unveil at February Cars and Coffee, Bob.
We'll do it.
How about that? I'll get out there and drive that thing at the Cars and Coffee.
For sure.
I'll show them what a dirt track car can do amongst the exotics.
Yeah, right into the side of them.
That's exactly right, man. So, Kenny, how's everything going out in Ohio, man? You want to call in and give us an update? 714, get the number, Kenny, 714-242-5166. 714-242-5166. Kenny, call us, man. We'd love to talk to you, man. Hear the latest and greatest. You've been a part of this family for a very, very long time. I keep having to refresh my phone today, Bub, to see all the comments coming. It keeps airing out that cannot play video. But yours has been fine, right?
Except for my Amber Alerts.
Well, Amber Alerts are something that were named after some girl named Amber that was alerted, not a guy stealing candy bars with almonds in them.
No, it's like an Almond Joy, the guy.
Then
Seriously.
Shouldn't it be like an Almond Joy alert or something?
I don't know, man.
Hey, Bub, you know there's a blues fest going on downtown tonight.
Yeah, and guess what I'm going to be doing? I'm going to be here working. I got some stuff I got to get done.
No, you don't.
Yeah, really, I do. I got to finish up this Jeep. I got that Porsche GT3 conversion I'm finishing up. I'm still in the body shop on that thing. Mm-hmm. So a lot of work going on, a lot of great things going on. And, hey, I'll tell you what. You want to talk about fuels for a second here. So there's nothing better. Let's just throw this out there than the smell of some
Cam
straight
2 fuel.
race fuel. Like, it just doesn't get
What
you
is
better
Cam
than
2 fuel race fuel? What does it do?
Anything higher than 100 octane fuel is going to generate that smell, that burn in your nose, that scent in your garage, that scent through your house, where it's like, yeah, there's raw horsepower sitting there. Some guys, they buy it and there's no reason to buy it. But I'll tell you what, man, the fuel is expensive too, though, man. You start getting into that 110, 114, 116, 112, 120. You start getting into those octanes, you're looking at paying $7, $8, $9, even upwards of $15 a gallon for these fuels, and that's where racing gets really expensive. But in the same circuit, you're only running so much fuel when you're running down a quarter-mile strip. It's not like you're going through 20 gallons of gas in one pass.
Right on, man. And by the way, Joe Kramer says, haha, answered. Sounds like you got the right answer to the question. Joe, you're also welcome to call in, 714-242-5166. I'm going to let the phone lines open today if you guys want to call in. Joe, it's always great talking to you because you're mentally engaging in so many different ways. And if you guys look right now, at the Facebook page, you'll see that the BEM dirt track driver, Mr. Mark Hoffman, who does the race report every week here on the Bubba's Exotic Motorsports Show, has a picture of the classic 77 Malibu. No, that's a 77 Monte Carlo, Bub. 77 Monte Carlo. That was a great car, wasn't it, Bub?
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Super, super good.
Those things that's what's fun about those cars. They weren't that body style was not a leaf spring car. That was an actual, that was a four-link style suspension in it.
It was.
Full frame chassis, front to rear is a box chassis all the way back.
So nice, right?
There are some serious upgrades you can do to those in terms of suspension components that just plant that freaking car and make it do exactly what it should do. I mean, everything from, you could buy tubular upper and lower front control arms. Did I say tubular really weird? I did.
No, you said tubular.
You can buy them for the rear as well that are fully adjustable, so you can set those pinion angles on that drivetrain exactly where you need them. The drivetrain angles, what I just said, because I knew you were going to say it. So the drivetrain angles, you can set all of those with these fully adjustable upper and lower arms. You can literally set these things exactly where you wanted to, but also get that added benefit of the strength of the solid tubular bars, or also in the heim joints themselves, not just like a traditional rubber, press in bushing. You are actually working with either polyurethanes. You can even step them up to Delrins, or you can even put them into like a full rebuildable heim joint style, where it is just pure strength, and it is like the next best thing to almost being a solid style system that you're going to buy, which is going to plant every last piece of what you produce.
So Kenny wants to know from out there in Ohio, Bob, how is the gas mileage of the BEM Rough Country Miss Outlaw?
It's like 13.4. I looked this morning.
13.4. That's not bad, Bub. That attests to the quality of what
That's
you
on
build.
stock gears too. So it's I'm considering doing the gear swap in it for sure. I was gonna reach out to Tyler at Rough Country and talk about that. Gonna bump those things up front and rear, really more so to change the overall shift times. So the gears right now.
Is that something you can electronically control?
No, it's not something you'd want to change there. It's just in the actual gear ratio itself. So it pulls itself fine, has no problem at all in terms of let's be honest here. It's not like you're going 100 miles an hour down the highway in this thing. Now this thing is an absolute freaking monster. So you're at a steady cruise. You're at that 70 mile an hour cruise, 75, 80 is great in this thing, and the handling's great. All that rough country suspension on there, again, something that's pre-tuned, pre-built, packaged exactly where it should be, so that you stick it on there, you have a proven product in the end. That thing is performing exactly like it should. But because of that overall tire diameter increase, the transmission is set to shift at a certain point, and it is a much slower acceleration now because the size of that wheel and tire to get to that shift point. So you change those gears, you're essentially speeding it up a lot faster to offset for the increase in the wheel and tire size, and it's going to make those shift points right back down to that snappier, quickier style that they were originally when it was on those factory 29.5-inch, 30-inch tall tires versus the 40s that are on it now.
Is it real sluggish though, Bub? I mean,
No. It's not at all, man. For the average person to get in and drive it, there's no chance they would know. It's, again, because I know the experience of what before was and what after was. And what is missing from that section. Now, for, say, example, Layla, she's driving it, no idea what it even, there's no difference at all. To her, it's just you get in, you step on the gas, and the thing goes, and it does what it should do with no problems at all. But if you want a little bit more of that torque, that Jeep torque that they produce, you change that gear ratio back down a little bit.
Interesting, Bub. And will that affect gas mileage, do you think?
It's actually probably going to make it better because you'll be less in the throttle to get it going. It's going to have that torque, that acceleration that it needs from going to a higher number gear ratio.
You know, and I thought about that too the other day as you were doing the SEMA Jeep. I was concerned about the height of the vehicle and the weight of the wheels that it's pulling around.
Yeah, and it's going to offset. You know, if you can speed that crap up, it's going to, it's going to work a lot better for it.
Who's outside the studio
God
door?
Dang it, dude.
Who is it?
Kenneth Mitchell.
Kenneth Mitchell, come into the studio, please. Kenny.
He's not coming.
Into the studio.
Here he comes.
Sit
He's
down
going
and
to
take
hit
a
the camera.
seat.
Watch.
Ladies and gentlemen, the shop foreman and lead tech here at Bubba's Exotic Motorsports, Kenny Mitchell, is joining us. Morning, Kenny.
Good morning.
How you doing, baby?
All right.
Are you hungover today?
No, sir.
You said you weren't going to drink anymore on Friday nights. Is that true?
Yeah.
Kenny, look at me and tell me that's true.
It's true. I swear.
What did you drink last night?
Nothing. Water.
Really?
You didn't drink water.
Yeah.
How did you manage to only drink water?
I don't know.
And why are you smiling
He's
about
on
it?
this new diet right now.
What's your new diet, Kenny?
I don't have a new diet yet.
It's an Orlando diet.
Oh.
Wow, that sounds strange to me.
Hey, you know who's up in the Orlando area?
Who's that?
Billy Lane.
Yeah, your good friend, Billy Lane, man.
That's right.
So the phone number, Joe, is 714-242-5166. 714-242-5166. Call 5166. Call in. We got a minute or two left. We'd love to hear from you. So, Kenny, how was your night last night?
Boring. My sister kept asking me to go out, but
Which one?
Which one? My sister. I have one.
He only has
Oh,
one.
I thought Cassie's your only sister?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did you drool on yourself today? Did you need a bib?
I did.
Look at him, Bub. Looks
I know,
he's
it's
got
everywhere.
pepper
That's
tracks all the way-
from-
That's actually from the BEM SEMA Jeep right there.
Is it really?
Yeah, it is.
Why is that?
He was splashing paint all over the place.
Yeah?
Should have seen what I did.
Sure.
What'd you
That's
do?
nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I heard, I was walking out from back there, and I heard something hit the ground, and I'm like, that's so typical, man. That would be me, whatever it was. And I just kept walking, right?
Yeah.
Knowing
totally.
it was funny.
Totally a Tom move.
Hey, Ken, I didn't even stop it, did it? I just
you
let it.
didn't.
I just
No.
let it go. So
He just walked in and goes, Dad, here, these need to go in the laundry, and he takes off his work shorts.
He was about to paint naked, he said.
That's
I stripped down to my drawers. I was about to start spraying, dude. Hey, you've only got 5 to 10 minutes between coats. I had to go.
Yeah, you did. His legs, red as like hornets had stung his leg, right?
Yeah. He was all right.
Because the paint had, what people don't
paint
know is
thinner,
the paint.
all
Yeah, the paint hit the ground and spilled everywhere, right? So when it did that, of course, it burned his leg real bad, right? And so
So my leg was bad. You should see my balls, dude.
Yeah, how about
They were
that?
swollen.
Oh my God!
I'm telling you.
man.
Just throwing that out there, guys. Sorry.
Morning caller, thank you for joining Doing It Bubba Style, the #1 rated internationally syndicated motorsports show. How are you today?
Good, guys. How are you?
Hey, good morning. Who's this?
This is Joe Kramer.
Good morning, Joe. Hey,
What's up, Joe?
Good morning. How are you, man? Don't, disregard the studio cue. We've got a minute. We can talk to you. How are you, Joe? How is everything?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Just actually working on the suspension on my Nissan. This is why I got all the suspension questions and how I want to put the power down.
Well, right on, man. Tell Bub what you've got. Tell Bub what your application is. What kind of Nissan do you have?
I got a 95 Nissan 240 SX and stock engine. Only thing I've done to it is exhaust. I'm just trying to get the best ride out of what they gave me from the showroom. So
the factory gave
trying to make it a good daily.
The factory gave you what
10
with that?
seconds.
Disregard the studio cue. We're okay.
Yeah.
The factory gave you what kind of suspension?
All I've done to it,
Mm-hmm.
I ripped all that out last weekend because all the shocks were blown, the struts were leaking, and the rear bushings had completely deteriorated. So right now I'm running a company called Silver's Coilovers.
You familiar with them, Bob?
And they got it. Yeah, they got me pretty sweet setup. It's their entry level. Everything looks good. I'm just trying to fine tune the preload and the ride height. So once it all settles, pretty much just be planted to the ground and be able to use this thing for how I guess she was designed to be used.
Okay, so Bub, let's real quick talk about it. I know we're at the top of the hour, and we can continue this conversation next week. It'd be a great topic to start in on, and have Joe in as a guest. Let's talk real quick. What is preload, Bub?
So you can actually adjust your the way that your shock absorber's dampening system operates. You can adjust whether they are a very smooth rebound and preload, or also a very harsh and firm. You know, being up north, I know that's where Joe is. You might want that a little bit on the firmer side because the roads are a little rough there. So depending on how that overall stance is set, if the car is a little bit on the lower side, you're not going to want them on the softest setting because you could look at potential of bottoming things out.
Okay. And now, Bub, when he's saying you're doing preload, this is with the suspension in the air or on the ground?
Doesn't matter either way. It's typically, and Joe, I'm not sure the way that Silver's coilover setup is, but if that's just an adjustable knob, either on the sides of the shock absorbers or the struts themselves, or through the very top of the shock where you put your main nut on that holds the coil spring down on it, there might be an adjustment valve there as well. It's just a matter of playing with them, fine tuning exactly where you want it. But whatever you do, especially for street driving, whatever you do on that thing, just make sure you set them all the same.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing that I've been trying to mimic. I have the two front coilovers set at a slightly different rate than the rear, just because the rear wheels tuck up a little bit further into the into the wheel wells. I'm actually the stock wheels were 16. I'm running 18 now, and I'm got a what size? I got 245 40R18 on it from Achilles that came recommended. They're fantastic. Haven't had any issues with them yet. And it's just, right now it's just figuring out the ride height. I want to kind of have it level, and from there I'm going to start fiddling more with the dampening and preload adjustments.
Nice.
To try and get a smoother ride.
Yeah, man, definitely. It's all about, once you've got that install on there, I think another key factor too that's super, super important, and that a lot of guys, man, it's and probably not you, Joe, because you're pretty in depth with your details on things, just from the communication we've had in the past. But whenever you go to set that ride height, man, even down to, and literally, trust me, bro, it's down to setting your tire pressures first before, and even if you're throwing a generic number, if you don't know what you want to run yet, set them all the same, whether it be like 30 pounds or 40 pounds on those Achilles tires. Set those all the same, because just if a couple of those tires, your left rear versus right rear, could be, say, 4 or 5 pounds off from one another, that could be like an 1/8 inch if you take measurements from, like, say, the asphalt to the bottom of the fender well to set that ride height.
Yep. That makes sense. It's probably what I'm running into with the right and left side. The driver's side is running high, the passenger side is running low, so that might actually be it.
Yeah, it's and that's what I'm telling you, man. It's very small things like that could be, that's always my go-to. Whenever we do coilovers here at BEM, we always start with, we set the coils to, we basically put the coilover together. We take all the slack out of the spring where you can actually adjust, the billet ride height adjusting rings on the coilovers. We take all the slack out, and then we just, leave them loose there. We put the car down on the ground. We move the car around, make sure that everything settles in where it should be. And, very first and number one thing to do is set those tire pressures just at an even number, whether it's 30 pounds, 35 pounds, 40 pounds. We set them at a base number so that everything is sitting exactly where it should be, and everything is even. Then from there, you can adjust each one of those coils up or down, whichever way you want to go to set that stance dead on.
Now, Joe, are you planning to work on that project this weekend? Yes, no?
No, I got to go over to my parents' place and help fell a few trees.
Okay, man. Be careful with that. Yeah.
As time comes to me, I work on it.
Yeah, I get it. I understand.
I appreciate it, guys.
Well, here's the thing, Joe. First of all, I want to say I'd like for you to call in next week. I'd like to continue this conversation. I wanted to run over a little bit because you have been with this family for a very long time. We always appreciate your support and your love that you throw to us. We appreciate your continued comments, and we're very loyal to people who are loyal to us. So we want to thank you, and that's why I wanted to take the time to get you in and run a little bit over. So thank you for being part of the Bubba's Exotic Motorsports family, man.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Joe, we'd like for you to please keep that number. I'd like to hear back from you next week. Let's talk about it. Let's talk a little bit more about that setup. We had a great suspension conversation today based on what you threw at us yesterday. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the gentleman who sent us the question that started the lead topic of today's show. We're going to carry on into next week with that. We have a special guest coming in, or calling in next week. It's going to be a great show. Joe, will you join us next week, please?
Yeah, I should be able to.
That would be great. That'd be fantastic. Joe, I want you to have a wonderful 4th of July. Be very, very, very careful working around the trees. Robin lost her father in a freak accident when a tree fell on him, and he was 66 years old. He was much too young to be taken the way he was. So please be very careful, okay, my friend?
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
No, right on, man.
I will, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being part of our family over the years, Joe. Thank you so very much, man. God bless you, man. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at the top of the hour here. We are going to close out the #1 rated internationally syndicated motorsports show. Kenny, I'm glad you got in here and joined us. How are you looking for this week? We're going to have a good week out there, man?
For sure.
Man, it was a crazy week last week, wasn't it, man?
Yeah.
Nobody sat still, did they?
No.
Oh, my God.
Not at all.
And, people expect so much and want to press so hard. When the quality of that goes out of the shop cannot be questioned.
You rush and make mistakes.
Yeah, you rush and make mistakes. Yeah, and I'm not willing to have that come back. And Bub's not willing to allow it to go. Got a pretty special project that Bub was working on yesterday out there, don't we? We can't talk about it, but that's pretty hot, isn't it, man?
Oh, man.
You were actually the one who went down and grabbed it.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
Oh, man, the thing is amazing.
Top shelf is top shelf, isn't it, man? And you visited that particular facility.
Yeah.
And
awesome stuff.
Crazy, isn't it?
Say,
How far we've come, huh, man?
Yeah.
Right? How far we've come, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for being part of our family, and thank you for running our business for us, man.
No problem.
I really appreciate it. So, Bub, we're going to get out of this thing. Ladies and gentlemen around the world, we're going to see you Monday morning. We will not go into the 4th of July without wishing you a happy 4th of July. Thank you for joining us here on the #1 rated internationally syndicated motorsports podcast, doing it Bubba style. Bub, until Monday,
just keep on doing it Bubba style.
This episode has been brought to you, ladies and gentlemen, by Bubba's Exotic Motorsports. That's Bubba'sExoticMotorsports.com. Miss Outlaw Boutique. The moose is loose on the web exclusively, ladies and gentlemen. MissOutlawBoutique.com. Cars and Coffee at Palm Beach. Going to be another great event coming up. I think we're going to be out there this month, Bub, running around and scratching the exotics. Got to get a couple Ferraris and Lambos in there, right, Kenny?
I'm down.
Right.
Hey, I got to finish up that GT3 conversion, then we'll park that Jeep on top of it.
Ooh. My God.
Literally. I mean, I'm thinking about it.
Let's roll reverse and park the GT3 car on top of the Miss Outlaw Boutique SEMA Jeep.
We might need a hoist to do that.
Yeah, that's a monster, isn't it?
It's a monster.
Orange County Choppers, Bub. This week, I want you to know, I spoke to the powers to be over there. This week is going to be a rerun.
That's right. It's actually going to be a rerun from this Monday, the past Monday.
Okay, so it's last week's show, correct?
And Mayo bike and something else.
The father and son bike.
And man, I'll tell you what, dude, that bike turned out pretty insane.
Which one?
Senior's old school chopper.
So you didn't see Bub? You know, we have big group texts that go on around here, and Bub just prominently chimed in out of the middle of nowhere. It was like midnight. All of a sudden, he comes in hot and he goes, "I'm sorry, Senior's bike killed Junior's bike."
Hey, I had to throw it out there on that one.
Yeah, and that's interesting, Bub. I mean,
because it's I'm definitely more of a Junior style design.
You are,
and I'm more of a very similar, and you know, when I was able to actually be like, you know what, no, I'm sorry on this one, I got to pull out and I got to lean over here. That's a tricky one there.
Got an amazing picture of us up at on tour. We were up with the Tuttles at OCC headquarters many years ago, Bub, and you're standing in the back right corner back, so it would have been the south corner of that building, and you were pointing at something, and I took a picture of it, and I didn't know what he was pointing to, and it was one of their first bikes that they had built. It wasn't a Spider bike, that was far too popular. It was something else. And I said, "Bub, what are you looking at?" And he goes, "This was really when the fusion of Senior and Junior was happening." And he could see both build styles in it. So Monday night, 10 o'clock, Bub, we do have a rerun of which bike is coming up this week?
It's going to be the father-son bike.
Father-son bike.
Yeah.
Right on, man. Rerun. So 10 o'clock. And Orange County Choppers are, Bub?
Choppers done Bubba style.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's reach out to touch somebody's life in a very positive manner today. Let's open the doors for somebody whose hands are full. Let's put shoes on somebody's feet that have holes in them. And ladies and gentlemen, if somebody's hungry, let's feed them. If they're standing at the corner, take them across the street, get them a Power Protein drink and a Power Bar or something like that. It's cheaper than your designer cup of coffee. Until Monday, ladies and gentlemen, let's keep on doing it. Kenny?
Bubba style.